Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining us on the Syrn Media Grant Info session. I'm so excited to learn more about your organization. Would you mind introducing yourself and your role at the Asian American Film Lab?
Not at all. And thanks so much, Liz, for having me. So my name is Jennifer Betit Yen. I'm the president of the Film Lab. The Film Lab is a 501c3 not-for-profit dedicated to the promotion and support of racial and gender parity in entertainment media.
Amazing. Can you speak a little bit more about the mission of your company and the history behind it?
Sure. So the Film Lab started as the Asian American Film Lab back in 1998. And it was created by a collective of writers that were actually seeing some success, amazingly. They were getting their scripts sold. They were all Asian Americans, but the problem was the scripts were getting sold and then they were getting whitewashed. So they were like, well, you know what, we'd love this script, but we're gonna change this guy into a white guy and this woman into a white, and so on and so forth. And so they got together originally just to moan and groan and create a little club to moan and groan about their success. But then they decided, you know what, why don't we do something constructive? And why don't we start a workshop session? And why don't we bring in actors to read our scripts? We'll workshop each other's scripts. We'll be collaborative, we'll be helpful, and we'll kind of create some community and some cohesion and try to lift other voices and stories. So they did that. It became very successful. That was the precursor to what is now called Unfinished Works, which is our screenplay reading and workshop series. And as the lab progressed, more programs, it formalized, it incorporated, and so on. And about, I want to say 17 years ago, we started doing the 72-hour shootout filmmaking competition, which is 72 hours, where teams create films based on a common theme. And the idea is to promote voices, stories, and faces that are so often erased or stereotyped or just underrepresented in mainstream media. And not just to promote, exhibit, support them, but also to get them mentorships and to get them opportunities with networks that they might not otherwise get. Because I think, although in the past year, we've all seen a little bit of color on our screens, and that's very, very nice, I think we still have to remember that we are a long way away from parity. And that if we're looking at, for example, mid and major studios, right? 91% of the C-level positions are still held by white men. That's crazy. That means that white men are greenlighting the projects that come in and controlling the projects that come in. So they could put you or me on the screen, but we're saying their words and we're acting their stories and we're being seen through their lenses. So there's still a long, long way to go. So what we're trying to do is break down some doors and push people into areas where they can have some, some real traction for their careers and really get put out there. And then obviously, since we've been moving along, we also have expanded. So at first it was just Asian Americans. Now we're looking at all underrepresented groups. And we're trying to focus more particularly now on women and LGBTQ voices. Women especially are very interesting just because when you look at the way we're portrayed in like film, for example, I like to call it the 4 S's. It's silent, sexy, subservient, or silent. And it's really rare and kind of exciting when you see, like, I don't know, I just saw, so I'm getting on my SAG screeners right now and I just saw Promising Young Woman. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it as yet. It's one of my screeners to watch as well, but yeah.
It was very good. And I loved Killing Eve, and Emerald Fennell wrote and directed Killing Eve. And then she also wrote, or no, sorry, what am I saying? She was showrunner on Killing Eve, but she wrote and directed Promising Young Woman. So I was really excited to see what she would do with that topic. And it met my expectations. I was very glad to see that topic through a more female lens. But yeah.
Yeah, your mission is very aligned with ours. And I'm thinking about Gina Davis in a conversation that she had where she was like, we got to open the door for other women, stick our elbow in it, jam it, and then let as many in as we possibly can. So it seems like you guys are definitely doing this with your organization. Specifically to the 72-hour shootout competition, you mentioned that there's a common theme. Is that theme chosen by you, or does each individual group choose the team? How does that work?
So The theme is usually chosen by either a judge or by the Film Lab team. And it really varies every year, but the theme is announced at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the first Thursday of June. And that, boom, that the clock starts ticking. You then have 72 hours within which to create your film based on that theme. And the themes have ranged from very simple. One year, the theme was, "This is just a test." And I was like, what is going to happen? What are these films going to be? They were all about pregnancy. It was hysterical. That was not what I expected. But then another year, the theme was super complicated. So it was, the theme was a guest in my own country. And the reason why that theme had been chosen was the winner of the overall filmmaking competition the year prior was interviewed. And in her interview, the interviewer asked, what made you decide to be a filmmaker? And she said, well, as a woman of color, I grew up not seeing faces like mine or on TV or stories like mine and in the movies. And I felt very alone. I felt like a guest in my own country. And we were all like, oh. So I think the filmmakers were not so like, oh, I think the filmmakers were like, what the hell kind of theme is this? But, you know, they did a good job. But yeah, so it can really range from like the very simple to much more nuanced.
Yeah, for sure. And can you talk a little bit more about what the winner is awarded?
Absolutely. So lots of stuff. There are a bunch of different prize categories. There are cash prizes and like fun prizes. Face Off Unlimited is one of our sponsors, and they have a show called Batsu, which is very, very, very funny. So they give, you get a night out, basically. That's one of the prize packages. You get a night out. Hopefully we'll all have our vaccines in time for, for this night out, but, you know, a night out dinner and a show, it's really nice. So there's the sort of fun, you know, fun prizes like that. But my favorite prizes are actually the mentorship prizes. So for example, our longest running judge, who's been with the competition all 17 years, is Marcy Phillips. And Marcy's the executive director of casting for ABC Primetime. You probably already know that. And so she meets with the winner of Best Actor and Best Actress. And so people have gotten roles, they've gotten cast, they've had the opportunity to meet somebody that they might never otherwise be able to get into her office. So that's a very exciting thing for Best Actor and Actress. And then we've had executives from NBC. Last year it was Grace Moss and Jandis Cardoso, mentored Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Writer, and Best Director. Brought them to NBC, you know, introduced them to people, and, you know, did what they could do to say, you know, where are you in your career now? What can we do to help you? Like, do you need advice? Do you need insights? Which are kind of invaluable opportunities to have. So we have a whole series of different mentors, ranging from film professors to directors to network TV executives, just to provide those introductions and that kind of support that's really hard to get otherwise. And then for the fun stuff, for the screening, the top 10 films screen at AIFF in New York City in the summer. Last summer, because of COVID, we were all virtual. The whole thing was virtual. Even like the films were shot in isolation with just family members or roommates. But it worked. So, and we may, you know, we'll see, but right now we're looking at a virtual shootout again, just for safety. Yeah, so I'm trying to think.
I think it's amazing you didn't cancel in the pandemic year.
Yeah, we had a pretty amazing coordinator that year. We were very lucky. We had somebody who had actually competed himself in the shootout for longer than I personally even knew the Film Lab existed. He'd been competing, I think, over a decade. And he was like, you know what, I compete every year, but this year I'd love to coordinate. And I was like, I'd love you to coordinate too, come on in. So he really was very comfortable with shootout, knew it inside out. And he was like, I think I know how to do this. I think I can make this work. And yeah, and the filmmakers were phenomenal. They just really came together, you know, shooting bits and pieces apart from one another, editing them together, and really just being extremely creative. So that was something else.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, given that you have this theme, people could go any direction they want with it. Are there any guide rails to where they can take the subject matter for their projects?
So, I mean, there's sort of basic stuff like, no extreme graphic violence or things like that. But and I believe it's the top 50 films we will screen as part of a TV series that we show called Film Lab Presents. And that is just basic broadcast television, which means that basic broadcast filters apply. So we tell them if you have profanity or you have things like that in there, we will have to just be aware that if you make top 50, we're going to have to bleep that out. But otherwise, they're really just in terms of creativity and the story, they're free to go nuts. And we actually encourage them to be as creative as possible, to think outside the box as much as they possibly can, and to really push boundaries and to tell stories that are unusual, that we wouldn't otherwise see.
Wonderful. Is there an ideal type of filmmaker you think you're looking to support? Is there an ideal experience level, or just something along the lines of someone who's typically competed and who's typically won?
Yeah, ideally, I would say the filmmaker that we want to really support, the filmmakers we get really excited when they win, are people that have been working hard. They're from an underrepresented group, and they haven't, they've just been having doors slam in their faces. And so that is a really exciting time to be able to reward somebody's hard work, and to be able to introduce them to somebody who could actually change their career, who could actually really alter their life. In terms of experience level, we have people from students who shoot on their cameras. We've had people shoot and make top 10 actually shooting on their phones. And then we have actual people that have their own studios compete, which sounds very unfair. But again, the people shooting on their phones have definitely made top 10. And the judges understand, because we tell them, look, within reason, kind of throw technical aside, within reason, obviously, and really look at the story and look at the sort of effort that's going into this to tell something interesting and different, and to, show stories that you would not otherwise see.
That makes sense to me. Are there any specific pandemic guidelines that you have for filmmakers over this year that you maybe implemented from last year? I can think, the person who owns the studio, maybe that helped in a previous year, but that may not have helped them during this time.
Yeah. We asked them, we sort of gave them general guidelines. We stole a little bit from SAG. We sent them over to SAG's website and said, hey, look at their COVID protocols, because they're pretty good. And then we just asked them, please film in isolation, film only with people, if you already live with your family or your roommates or whatever the situation is, use those people as much as you can, film something by yourself and then have somebody else film, and just be creative, do editing. We had a lot of people do stuff where there were several films where it was just, one person and they were trapped in something, or they're talking on the phone to somebody, and so they could shoot separately. But really just keeping, if they are together, and obviously with crew, wear your masks, especially for crew, do your social distancing, all that kind of good stuff. Wash your hands,
In addition to the Film Labs show that you just mentioned, what other ways do you screen the projects, and how would individuals be able to have access to the submitted films?
So all the films you can see on the YouTube channel. So, or all of the films. So the top 100 usually we put out on the YouTube channel. So 100 per year. It's a lot of films. I think after you get to 100, you're like, okay, that's good. So that's our YouTube channel, which is YouTube ASAM Film Lab, FILMLAB. So they're on YouTube. And then the top 50 are televised nationally. That's in the TV show Film Lab Presents. And on our website, which is film-lab.org, if you go to the TV part, it'll give you, because the channels vary based on the city that you live in. So it'll tell you which channel, the day, the time it's showing. And then obviously the top 10 screen at the film festival.
Amazing. So what advice would you give to filmmakers who are here about this right now and they're thinking of registering for the opportunity? What would you say to them?
I would say register immediately, take the opportunity. I wish, it's so funny because all of us on the Film Lab team always joke, because obviously we can't compete in our own competition. So we're conflicted out, of course. But we always are like, I want this prize so bad. People will bring in new judges, new mentors, and they're so amazing. And we're just like, oh, what an opportunity. I mean, really just take it and run with it. And the other nice thing about our mentors is that they really do come to us because they are excited. We don't pay them to do this mentorship. They're doing it because they actually want to do it, which is a huge difference than somebody who's just taking some money to do a job. These are people that really care. They're very committed, and they really want to change the fabric of entertainment and to truly participate in effectuating social change as much as they possibly can. So they're very committed, they're very excited, and they're the kind of people that, you know, if you win this prize and then you are their mentee, they're really going to take you and go that extra mile to try to help you because they're so invested and they're so excited.
That's invaluable. Can you talk a little bit about how that maybe has helped someone who's won before? Are there any success stories from a winning project? How the award helped to progress a filmmaker's career?
Yes, definitely. We actually have a series of little web videos on our YouTube channel of various different people talking about how it's changed their careers and things like that. I think the most dramatic ones, and actually you'll be talking to a couple of those filmmakers soon. Some of the most dramatic ones are the winners of Best Actor and Actress, because those are very easy to see immediately because, you know, I'll see your face right away. But so, for example, one of the gentlemen that won Best Actor got a recurring role on Veep right after. One of the women, I see her in commercials all the time now. I'm like, oh, there you are. And you know, she was very kind. She did a video for us, but she was just like, my life is totally different. Like, it's just like all of a sudden I have these opportunities I didn't have before, which is, yeah, it's so exciting. It's really, really nice. But in terms of the writers and directors too, they're having the opportunities behind the scenes to work with the network, you know, get in with a network executive, really see what's going on. How do I get into that writer's room? What do I do? And that's really exciting for them and fun. So yeah, there's a lot of good. And then one woman you'll be speaking to, Lava Buckley, she won. So she's competed for many years, and she typically does very, very interesting films. Like, they're just really neat. Like, she's definitely not afraid to take risks. And I think she's won most original use of theme multiple times because she's a very creative woman. And she won last year most outstanding female content creator and NYWIFT. And we had two sponsors actually for that award. One was the Creation Project. So the Creation Project gives you an interview. She features the person on the blog, gets them some publicity, gets them some more exposure. And then NYWIFT, New York Women in Film and Television, gives a year-long mentorship. And so that was really wonderful, just in terms of meeting all these wonderful women, learning all this stuff, being able to go to all these seminars and panels and workshops and just get all those networking opportunities. And they're both coming back.
That's amazing. Jennifer, thank you. That's great. Can you tell everyone where to go to find information about Film Lab?
Absolutely. Go to the website. It's lab.org.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking your time to speak with us here at Syrn Media. We appreciate it, and we look forward to speaking with you again some other time. Have a great one.
Thanks so much, Liz. You too.